right. Wow, what a turnout. Holy moly. So many people, so glad that you could all make it here today. Welcome to the dedication of the Ely Miners Memorial. My name is Nick Wagnum. I'm the president of the Ely Ely Arts and Heritage Center Board. We are a nonprofit board, and our job is to take care of this facility here and preserve the history of our community. I'd like to thank my fellow board members. They're all here today. Bill Erzar, Jim Beatty, Christine Belisle, Marianne Leckitz, Seraphine Rolando, Barb Schultz, Doug Poplar, Cindy Tarvin, and Mike Tarvin. Could we give them a round of applause, please? They all helped to make this day happen by their dedication and their commitment to preserving Ely's mining heritage and the loss of life over 78 years of mining here. This event itself has been 20 years in the making. It actually goes back a lot longer than that, though. It goes back to 1889 and the first death recorded in Ely's mining history. Over that time period, from 1889 through 1967, 218 men went to work and didn't come home. In 1967, mining stopped in Ely. On April 1st, the Pioneer Mine here closed, and that was the end of mining in our community. But the history of that mining, the history of what happened in our community is being kept alive today through the works of this board, through the city of Ely preserving this site, and for all the people who come here to learn about it. A project to build a miners' memorial was announced in 2008. Fundraising began then. There were small donations, $10, $20. There were larger donations, $100, $1,000. And the board would like to thank all those individuals who contributed donations to make this happen, along with major funding from Twin Metals Minnesota, the City of Ely, and the IRRB. We give a round of applause for all those who helped make this happen. The Ely City Council gave their formal approval for this project in 2011. It took 15 years to pull it off. The stated goal at the time was to create a memorial to the miners who died here and whose work contributed to the success of industry during World War II. We will hear from several speakers today, and I think we have a great lineup. They each have a unique connection to the Ely Miners Memorial. We're going to start today with our state representative, Roger Scrubba. Roger has been an ardent supporter of this project from his days as mayor of Ely to his current seat on the IRRB, one of our major funders. Please welcome Representative Scrubba.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I want to thank the board and everyone for their perseverance to keep going on this project. I did see it in 2008 when I was mayor, so it was something that we want to get done. I'm glad it's finally done. I'm glad I could be part of it with the IRRB. We support this site huge, and I appreciate all of you for coming here to support this site. Normally I don't read speeches, but I had to write a speech because I wanted to make sure that I hit all the points that I want to hit and not get carried away, because I do have a vested interest in this memorial. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Pioneer Mine site, where millions of tons of iron ore were mined that fed the nation to defend itself and to build our great nation. We are here today to pay tribute to the men who died working to create a better life for themselves and their families, while supplying the nation the steel it needed to grow and prosper. Ely always has and will always be a place that owes its prosperity to the natural resources that surrounds it. From supplying the nation's timber to build homes and businesses, to the timbers used to keep the many levels underneath us from collapsing so the iron ore could be used to keep taken out for our great nation's needs, to the opening of the vast timberland to resort development and the creation of the National Forest System for tourism and commercial use of the forest. Ely has always been affected by its natural resource extraction and preservation. Some of us call this home, and we are proud to do so. Our forefathers carved the community out of the wilderness, and we continue to keep it a viable, beautiful community to live in. Some of these men died making this a reality. Some of these deaths were preventable by today's standards. But from 1888 till about the 1940s, death seemed acceptable. Thanks to the unions and activist workers refusing to continue working till the conditions improved, the number of deaths were greatly diminished. I can't help but to think about the men who had to go to work not knowing if they would come home at the end of their shift. What was probably the most egregious was how the wealthy mine owners and board of directors ignored the pleas of the workers. Things have greatly changed from those times, and if we have learned anything, profit does not usurp life. I am proud to represent this community and the whole mining area and will uphold these standards so we do not have to endure profit over life ever again. Some of you are probably wondering why I haven't been politically correct by not recognizing women miners. They did not exist. That the work was considered too dangerous for women at the time. Today, I'm happy to announce that women are working and managing mines all over the world. Women also played a huge role in our mining community. They supported their husbands, their sons, and relatives who worked in the underground mine and gave the men the love they needed to endure some of the most dangerous work on earth. Thank you to the women. My grandfather, John Scraba, this is the hard part for me, started working in the mine around 1900. He and my grandmother immigrated from Slovenia and were drawn to Ely for the mine work. The Catholic Church sent priests to northern Minnesota to find a place for the young who didn't have work in Slovenia, and northern Minnesota was the destination. Grandpa John started as a mine laborer and moved up to an electrician very quickly. He worked in the mine until 1935. He and my grandma, Agnes Zupik, had 13 children. 9 survived, 4 died at childbirth. Life was tough. My grandfather was killed instantly when a tugger cable broke. He was 52 years old. My father was 5 when his father died. Grandma was left to raise 9 children. Life was tough, but they endured. I am sure our family story is similar to the 214 names on the granite panels. I'm thankful for the unions and worker activists who made these mines safer, and I pray we will be as vigilant with mining safety in the future as we are intelligent and we learn from our mistakes. I am extremely thankful to everyone who has worked on making this Miners Memorial a reality. I'm thankful to all the miners who didn't pass away in the mine. I'm thankful to this community for the support of mining. I will let others name the many people who made this a reality. All your hard work has paid off. And as a family member of one of the fallen miners, I personally want to thank you for not giving up. This Miners Memorial is worth every minute and every dollar spent. Thank you. Unfortunately, I have another event I have to go to, and I have to leave, but I wish I could stay and celebrate with you all. Thanks again for coming, and I hope others will come to learn about Northern Minnesota's mining legacy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roger, for speaking. Next up is Albert Florsman. Albert is my high school classmate. He is a city council member, and he's filling in today for Mayor Heidi Omerza. Albert, we want to thank you and the city staff for all you do to keep this place alive and all you do to help us financially. I mean, there are things the city does I probably shouldn't even say because they help us all the time. So thank you for what the city does, and please join us up here. Thank you.
Well, I too took some notes because if I did not ramble on too long and not say half the things I wanted to. So I'll read. Today is an important day in the history of not just Ely, but of our country. Through the hard work and dedication of the Ely Arts and Heritage Center, this long overdue memorial will be dedicated to the 218 miners that have died in the Ely mines during the 83 years of local mine operation. These men chose to work the dirty, difficult, and dangerous jobs as far as 1,700 feet below the surface to earn a living wage and provide for their families. But the work they did was much bigger than simply putting food on a table or a roof over their heads. These mines provided the ore that built America, and it was critically important in defending the free world in 2 world wars. It's truly important that these brave souls' names are etched in stone to be remembered for their significant contributions to the American story. The city of Ely is grateful to all that made this memorial a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Albert, and thank you to the city again for all they do. Next, we have a speaker from one of the main funders of improvements here at the Pioneer Mine, going back many years. The Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation Board is what we call it, but it has a formal name, I know. But I'd like to welcome to the stage Stacy Schultz.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity for me to be here today. Commissioner Rukavina is sad that she can't be here, but I'm happy to be here. It's deeply personal and meaningful to me to join the community of Ely in honoring more than 218 miners who lost their lives in the underground mines. I was born and raised in Ely, and my family has deep roots in the mining industry. My great-grandfather and my great-great-grandfather both lost their lives in mining accidents, and their names are etched on the memorial. Anton Zupik died in the Chandler mine in 1927, and Charles Leas died in the Pioneer mine in 1902. Both Anton and Charles were retrieved from the mines and are laid to rest in the Ely Cemetery. Anton immigrated to the United States from Slovenia, and Charles immigrated here from Finland. Both men came to America seeking a better life. They found jobs at the local mines, and each day that they reported to work, they descended underground in cold, dark tunnels, mining iron ore that our state and nation depended on. There were no laws protecting them, no OSHA, and no workman's compensation. They worked in complete darkness and faced dangers on a daily basis. Although they tragically died in Ely's underground mines, their legacy lives on through their family. Their sacrifice and hard work in profoundly dangerous conditions paved the way for generations of my family, from my great-grandparents all the way down to my own children. My parents, my brother, and my extended family are here today. We have a keen understanding that were it not for the people like my great-grandfather and great-great-grandfather, and countless others who worked in the mines to build Ely, to supply the American economy with iron ore, that none of us would be here today. None of us would be able to call Ely home and to be able to live on the Iron Range and raise our families. I am legal counsel for the Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation Department for the state of Minnesota. All of the agency's project investments are funded through taxes paid by Minnesota's mining industry through production taxes. The tax was passed into law in 1941, many years after my own great-grandfather and great-great-father were killed in mining accidents. Though I never met them, I believe they would be happy and proud to know that the mining tax supports the work that we do today. The Ely Pioneer Mine Historical Site and Memorial was supported by several grants from the IRRR. The grants helped complete the Granite Memorial and much of the infrastructure here at the site. Our agency's investments into the Pioneer Mine Historical Site help us achieve our mission of creating strong communities. The investment is part of our mineland reclamation work. The Iron Range is a place where mining still lives on today. It lives in our landscapes and continues to provide for our communities and people long after the actual mining is over. The region is leading the way in transforming mining lands into destinations that strengthen the quality of life, support economic growth, and create new opportunities for our communities to thrive. A prime example of that is right here at the Pioneer Mine, where people can visit and learn about the mining industry. As residents of this region, nearly every facet of our daily lives has been supported in some way by mining. Through IRRR investments, the mining industry and the production tax, from water and sewer infrastructure to roads that we travel, to the schools that our children attend, and the trails, parks, and recreation opportunities that make our communities a wonderful place to live. Congratulations to the Ely Arts and Heritage Center, the City of Ely, the Minnesota Historical Society, and all of the volunteers and partners who helped make this project possible. Thank you for working together on a local level toward a common goal of strengthening your community and honoring your past. Your collective efforts have created a site that will be enjoyed by residents and visitors for years to come and will help make northeastern Minnesota a better place. It was truly an honor to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Next up is Doug Luthinen. He is a 1967 graduate of Ely Memorial High School. During his career in a mire of corporate life, he played keyboard with the Bobcats. And he wrote a book on youth baseball entitled, "Who is this cutoff man? Why do they all want to hit him?" In retirement, Doug wrote and recorded several music videos and contributes monthly viewpoint columns for the Ely Echo. Among his columns and songs are mining-related themes. One of them applies to our purpose here today. Doug.
Can we position someone over here to catch my cap when Thank you, Nick. And thanks to the volunteers who are keeping Ely's mining history alive, mining that lifted so many families. The memorial and the exhibits in the Shaft House not only honor the miners who worked here, but also keep alive the hope that mining will resume in our area so that future generations can benefit as we have. Songs can be inspired by unexpected things, and sometimes songs can inspire unexpected things. Listen.
They came from Ljubljana, sailed from Trieste, from Finland and Cornwall, then they came west. They heard of the place they all looked for, where under the forest hid rich Igador. They went to the captain, and in their own way, they hired on quickly, started that day. They crowded in cages, went underground, and built a future for family in town. Those were the miners who left behind the stains of toil from the ore they mined. Their work, their aches, chills and pain, built our city and the lives we gained. They drilled and blasted, razors and drifts, nice much pay, a rotating shift. They worked on contract and earned their pay, respecting the bosses, but having their say. They built our houses, drank in saloons, and maliciously sang their own country tune, and loved their family, and gave us more than 88 years of him our title. Those were the miners who left behind the stains of toil from the ore they mined. Their work, their race, chills and pain, built our city and the lives we gained. The underground mines, they hummed with pride, deeper they dug and ever more wide. They built our schools, won a war, scraping and tugging for the blue iron ore. The mines are still, yet all remains. We must remember our fortune and gains. Miners who came here, sweated and died, built our foundation and gave us our pride. A toast to the miners who left behind the stains of toil from the ore they mined.
Roger's not the only one that has a problem up here. While in college, I received a letter from my dad, Matt Luthinen. Dad was one of the hundreds of Ely area miners who worked in the underground mines in Ely. In Dad's case, it was this Pioneer Mine from 1929 until it closed on April 1st, 1967, just a few weeks before I graduated from that same school. For 37 years, he changed into his mining clothes, climbed the stairs from the dry house behind us here, and began his shift, Sometimes day shift, sometimes afternoons, sometimes evenings. Graveyard, they call that one. And we kids had to be quiet on that shift all day when they slept. As did hundreds of men over the nearly 9 decades that underground mines operated here. But Matt was a bit of a poet, and in that letter, he scrawled the line, "And not only does one leave behind the stains of toil, but also chills, aches, and pains." In the family sauna at Burnside, there's an 8x11 plaque with those words, and they stayed with me for decades. In 2014, I was noodling on the piano one afternoon, and the phrase, "left behind the stains of toil," came to me. I heard them in 6/8 time for some reason. Mom was a music teacher. And I plunked a D major chord on the piano, and I don't know why I picked D, and then an E minor, and then it devolved over to a G, and then an A6, and pretty soon the song began to form. When we got to that passage from the Or They Mind, I ended with a B minor chord, which is kind of a haunting thing. From there, the melody, chords, and lyrics developed, and when I had a rough draft of it, I took it to my friend and recording artist George Faber and played it for him on my sister's piano, adding that descending passage that opens and closes the song over that ambivalent D power chord to suggest the descent that the miners took to their workplace. A week later, I took the piece to a studio where Tim Snow, a Twin Cities professional musician, provided the drums, guitar parts, and the engineering to make the recording you just heard. I'm grateful for George's vocal with its grit and emotion, and Tim's light and heavy guitar touches to musically express the appreciation that the song seeks to evoke from listeners for the contributions that these miners gave. Pardon me. All right, can't read it. Wind's holding it down. Thanks to the committee for inviting me to speak here today and give you a background on that song. It was inspired, of course, by that letter from my dad, and you'll see more of it here later this morning when these are removed, the covers are removed. But this has been a difficult thing for me to do, and I didn't think it would be. But thanks for being here and for listening to Stains of Toil.
An emotional day for many. We wouldn't be here today without the dedication of the numerous people who did research into each and every death in Ely's mines. The Ely Arts and Heritage Center Board of Directors would like to give a special thanks to all who did that, who researched those names. Yes, thank you. Now, we're going to hear from one of them next, but I wanted to make sure that, and I know she'll probably mention some of these, and that's okay. But the Ely Witten Historical Society helped us, the Iron Range Historical Society, Michelle Lammy, our next speaker, Nancy Bergman, Roberta Palin, Mike Kamnikar, Joanne Schur, Ann Stewart Ewing, Ann Swenson, my mother, and the St. Louis County Inspector of Mines Office. We owe each and every one of them a debt of gratitude for what they dedicated, from all those newspaper clippings, to going back and looking at death records, to actually going out to the cemetery and looking at headstones to make sure that we were as accurate as we could possibly be. Would you please welcome one of our researchers, Michelle Lammy.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Before I get into how we conducted this research for this project, I wanted to acknowledge those who put the original list together. It created a decent starting point for verifying names, dates, and ages, which was very helpful. Moreover, Nick was willing to hear me out and encouraged me to look into the information when I contacted him about duplication and other data in the list that just didn't make sense to me. The parameters the Ely Arts and Heritage Center Board and I came up with to put the names on the monument were: a death counted if a person was employed by the mine and died on mine property while at work, was employed by the mine and died due to a mine accident, either immediately or at a later time, and the cause of death was attributed to that accident and is documented. Nancy Bergman and I did the brunt of the research, and we made digital copies of all the news articles, necessary death certificates, obituaries, legal notices, pictures of headstones, and any other pertinent information we came across. To keep track of all the information, I created a spreadsheet for the material we found. We spent a bit of time determining mine and company names because as managing agents changed or mines were sold, the actual mine names sometimes changed. Once we had a solid list, we were able to search those mines, which helped us immensely in wading through the vast amount of information available. The Mud Creek mine, for example, was also referred to as the Consolidated Vermilion, Mud Creek at Seymour, and Vermilion Mine at Seymour. The sources we used included the newspaper hub on the Minnesota Historical Society website, where we searched the Ely Miner, the Duluth, Two Harbors, Tower, Eveleth, and sometimes other newspapers in the state. Nancy and I visited the Minnesota Discovery Center several times to view microfilm of the Ely Times and the Ely Iron Home newspapers and the Ely death records. The Iron Range Historical Society holds most of the years of the St. Louis County Inspector of Mines records, and we talked to the mine inspector in Virginia and got the years that were missing. We searched the Minnesota and St. Louis County death indexes, Find a Grave, cemetery records, Ancestry.com, FamilySearch.org, death certificates, and the Stina B. Green book entitled Minnesota's Mining Accidents 1900 to 1920 and Mining Deaths 1889 to 1990. My husband, mom, and dad helped me search the Ely Cemetery during the fall of 2023. Some days it was fairly nice, but most days it was cold, and a few of the days it snowed on us. Enough that we had to clear snow off of the stones. It was important to me, though, to find each miner's grave, whether in Ely or elsewhere. For the data on this memorial, the Center's board decided to use the spelling of the miner's name and their ages as shown on the death or cemetery records when available. We looked at the headstone and tried to rectify the differences between the records and the headstones, and then decided what was correct. And I am using the term correct loosely here. If there was a question on the death index or if we needed more information, we got a copy of the death certificate. Mike Kamniker, a volunteer in Minneapolis, went to the Minnesota Historical Society to copy those, and Joanne Shear, research volunteer with the St. Louis County Genealogy Group, looked at county records for us and sent us the information. In addition to the names and dates placed on the memorial, we determined that 35 names on the original list were accidents, not deaths. 12 of the names we could find no documentation of any kind, including the name of the person. We added 10 new names. There was 1 suicide, 1 murder, 1 heart attack, 1 stroke, 3 unknown people were identified, 25 names were duplications, and 1 miner actually died in the Fail mine in Eveleth. Many of the news articles of these deaths were unpleasant to read. Men fell down holes, drifts collapsed, many were killed by getting caught between train cars and in explosions. But perhaps the saddest story was about Charlie Fromhartz. He was about 12 years old in May of 1901. His father was Captain William Fromhartz from the Pioneer Mine. Charlie was playing at the mine with his older brother and fell 500 feet into the ladder road at the new shaft and died instantly. This truly was a labor of love for me. At the end, it felt like I knew each miner personally. I hope we did right by the miners we remember with this memorial. I'd like to point out, though, that these names are the most obvious of mining deaths in the Ely area. We also need to remember the miners who died of pneumonia, lung cancer, COPD, and other diseases known to kill underground miners, months or years after their service to the mine, and to the miners who died because a mining accident was never recorded as such, for whatever reason. This is a beautiful memorial remembering those who came before us, acknowledging their stains of toil, undertaking important work in building the community of Ely, its surrounding area, and contributing to U.S. industry and wars for almost 80 years. Cheers to the members of the Ely Arts and Heritage Center for a monument well done. I really thank you for the opportunity to help.
Her thoroughness cannot be understated. I was lucky enough with the board to get a copy of a thumb drive that had all of her research on there. And so this week in the Echo, and I have extra copies back there if you don't get the paper or you haven't seen it, I tried to recreate every single death notice that Michelle found, posted in a newspaper, like she said, from numerous different sources. They're fascinating reading. They really are. Some are very, very graphic. I'll let you read them. I'll leave it at that. But please, if you haven't seen it, please take one home with you today. And again, Michelle, thank you for everything you did. Next up, I'm going to turn this portion of the program over to my fellow board member, Mr. Bill Erzar. Bill, come on up.
Dobra dan and Dobra dosli. Good afternoon and welcome. Kako si, how are you? These are some of the Slovenian words that I often heard growing up in Zenith location, living above my grandma and grandpa Erzar's home. So I'm Bill Erzar, a veteran, retired third generation miner, and lifelong Ely resident and board member of the Ely Arts and Heritage Center and Pioneer Mine Museum. I'd like to give a little abbreviated view of iron ore mining in Ely. During the gold rush of the 1880s in northeastern Minnesota, amounts of gold were found which were insignificant. But finding iron ore of significant value and quantities on what became the Vermilion Iron Range stretching from Sedan to Ely. The Sedan mine began shipping ore on the Duluth and Iron Range Railway in 1884. In Ely, the Chandler ore body was discovered in 1882 near the shores of Shagawa by George Stuntz. And soon after, Henry Porter and Captain John Pengilly began developing the Chandler mines, which began shipping iron ore to two harbors in 1888 by the Duluth and Iron Range Railway. Pioneer's ore was initially found by Martin and William Pattison, and those two brothers formed the Pioneer Iron Mining Company and began shipping in 1889. The rich red-blue hematite iron ore that is found here in the Pioneer it was famous for that red-blue hematite. And that boasted an iron content of sometimes up to 68%. And average value was in the mid 60 percentiles. Of course, with the development of the mines, they needed workers. And a town needed to be built. And the new frontier attracted men from England, Finland, Slovenia, Italy, Croatia, Austria, Hungary, Montenegro, and other European countries. The immigrant miners created and settled into neighborhoods consisting mostly of their own ethnic nationalities. Ely had many of them. Zenith location, Finn Hill, Pioneer location, Chandler location, among others. And Chandler was also known as the other side of the tracks. hang on here a second. I don't need my pages to find. The immigrant miners who came here, including my grandfather, in 1909, worked for a mere $1.50 to around $1.85 per 10-hour day. And that was their daily rate. That was not an hourly rate. And they worked in mostly dangerous underground conditions. They were crewed with other nationalities so as not to be able to talk to other co-workers on the job, which in itself became a safety issue. So if you were a Slovenian, you got put together with a Finlander and a Swede, or somebody else that you were not able to understand. The wages those guys made were to support their family if they had one here, and all of them didn't. Many came by themselves to this country. They had to buy their mining supplies, including picks, shovels, candles for their hats, and other required mining materials. And some men, not wanting to waste their candle, did not light their candle on their way to the work area in those early days. And there were some deaths from falling down shafts because they had no light. They were feeling along the wall, and all of a sudden they fell down a shaft. Meanwhile, for example, the fee holders, the investors at the Chandler mines, received a high net profit of $100,000 per month for 19 years. Ely had several mines, including the Chandlers, Pioneer, Savoy, Sibley, Zenith, and Lucky Boy. The immediate area also included the smaller Mud Creek, LaRue, Macomber, Armstrong Bay, and Robinson. Those mines were to the west. To the east, we had the Section 30, the Chippewa, and White Iron mines. During the lifetime of the main Ely mines, which operated from 1888 to 1967, they produced 86,248,000 long tons of hematite iron ores that were railed to two harbors and then shipped to the eastern steel mills by the way of the Great Lakes. The Pioneer was the leader and shipped the largest quantity, 41,112,587 long tons, from 17 levels down 1,620 feet underground. The Zenith, which operated from 1892 to 1964, produced 21.5 million long tons from about 1,800 feet deep. The Chandler mines, Chandler South and Chandler North, had 5 shafts down 833 feet and shipped a combined total of 11,900 million tons. The Sibley, which ran from 1899 to 1954, dug down to 1,278 feet to ship 9,808,000 long tons. The Savoy, 1,866,000 long tons from 840 feet deep. Because underground work was dangerous, fatalities and injuries were common. Rock falls, mudslides, cave-ins, falling down shafts, blasting accidents, material falling on and burying men, ore hoisting or rail yard accidents were among everyday working conditions. Because of these conditions, the men started forming unions for safer working conditions, for better pay and benefits. Despite better conditions over time, working in the wet, muddy Ely mines, accidents still happened. So because of those accidents, our grandmas and grandpas lost a son, wives suffered the unbearable loss of the death of their husband, kids like my classmates and friends lost their fathers, grandfathers, uncles, and that was very hard for us kids and families to endure. To honor the passing of these hardworking, brave miners, men who worked to build this nation and win 2 world wars, An approximately 20-year research project was implemented and headed by Michelle Lammy there. Thank you very much, Michelle. And so these men that died in the mines will now have a lasting memorial to them and to remind us of their hard work bringing this iron ore to the surface to build this nation. We as an organization and a community pay homage to them. So our organization, the Ely Arts and Heritage Center, will now unveil and dedicate this permanent memorial to the 218 miners who perished in the mines, building this community, state, and nation. We will now unveil the monuments. I know many of you here, some of my classmates and friends, neighbors, lost someone here that is listed on these memorial tablets. I don't know if any of you would like to make a comment or not. We appreciate it, but understand if you don't want to. We will now have a moment of silence and a sound of bagpipes by Joe Linneman, the song High Cathedral by Ulrich Roever and Michael Korb. Thank you, Joe. Very nice. Just the question again, if anybody would like to speak that had a family member whose name is on these monuments, if they would like to speak, you're welcome to come up.
Thanks, Bill and Nick and everyone who had a part in this memorial. My grandfather, Casper Rom, is listed on one of these granite slabs. He died in the Chandler Mine on January 4th, 1918. At the time he died, he'd worked in Ely as a miner for about 27 years. He came over here in 1890, and he left behind 8 children, the youngest of which was my father, who was 1 month old when his father was killed in a cave-in on Chandler Mine. I didn't know much about Casper because my father had no memory of Casper. I did hear stories. I did know there was no social safety net in 1918 when people were killed in the mines. I know that my uncles quit school. They hunted and fished throughout the Superior National Forest, hiding their fish in pack sacks from game wardens. My grandmas, I remember all the Slovenian grandmas in town. They had big gardens. They had chickens and they had pigs. So my grandma had a big garden where Canoe Country Outfitters now sits. And that's where she kept her chickens and pigs and had her garden. If you walk between the Forest Service Center and the college on a path, you can see the old gardens that the grandmas had. You can see the rocks pushed aside so that there are squares formed. Those were the old gardens. There are also old grandma gardens up by the golf course. So whether their husbands were alive or not, they relied on those gardens, and that's how my grandma was able to keep her family together. My aunt Emma Moravitz was born in 1900, and I never really thought about asking about my grandpa until she was living in the nursing home. What she told me was that Casper Rom was pious. She also told me that he agitated for better working conditions. I understand that the first 2 decades of the 20th century were a time of labor unrest, where miners were agitating for better working conditions when the Wobblies started. And she told me that he would sometimes be let go from the mines because he agitated for better working conditions. As the 100th anniversary of his death approached, I talked to Senator Amy Klobuchar. Up here it's Klobuchar, we know that. Her grandpa also worked in the mines. Amy offered to fly an American flag over the Capitol on January 4th, 2018, the 100th anniversary of my grandfather's death. I like to think that that flag flew over the U.S. Capitol for all of the men who are listed on the slabs behind me. I gave that flag to my youngest son, who is expecting his first child in September, a boy, and I'm lobbying hard that he name his child Casper. I'll let you know if I'm successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. And all the stories that we have heard over the years, many of us growing up with our grandparents in the first few years after we were born, we learned our native languages, Slovenian, Finnish, other Slavic, Swedish. So that's where some of my words came from. So, Avala, thank you for your family's sacrifice and for attending. And Nick will have a final word or so, and after that, we will be able to have the Shaft House open for you to visit.
I just want to mention a couple things before we go. First and foremost, thank you. Thank you for coming and being part of this day, for remembering our history and being part of it yourself. It's important that you were here. Thank you. Also, in the back, we have Poppin' Water for sale. We have cookies available. And if you're interested in helping, we have a raffle going on. So if you'd like to buy a raffle ticket, please see Mike and Cindy in the back, and they'll be happy to help you. They also want me to make sure I reminded you that August 15th, we'll be back here for Heritage Fest. It's a great event. Please come back and take it in. We'll have events going on both up here in the Shaft House and down below in the Miners Dry. So again, August 15th for that. We're actually doing a special part of the event this year, the night before, Friday night at Ely's Historic State Theater. So be sure to check out that as well. On behalf of the board of the Ely Arts and Heritage Center, on behalf of the people who are listed on the plaques behind me, thank you for coming. Have a good day.